Welcome back to our podcast. Today, we're exploring a deeply holistic approach to trauma, healing, and human connection through the insights of Rathika Marsh. Unlike conventional therapies, Rathika emphasizes the importance of embodiment, intuition, and connecting with the inner wisdom that resides within us all. In this episode, Rathika shares her innovative methods for working with mind, body, and spirit, tools that empower individuals to tap into their innate potential, dream their desired future, and heal past wounds. Her approach invites us to move beyond the traditional frameworks and explore a multidimensional path to well-being. Whether you're a practitioner seeking new modalities or someone on your own healing journey, Rathika's insights will remind you of the power of embodiment and the transformative potential of reconnecting with ourselves. Let's dive in.
Do you want to have a little ground?
Oh, that's lovely. I did just take one, but I'm happy to take another breath. Thank you for the invitation.
Let's just close our eyes and take a breath into your belly, rooting your energy down to your feet, down to the earth. Just allowing yourself to be held by the surface underneath you, by the Divine Mother, knowing that you're doing an incredible job even amongst the chaos. And just allowing yourself to tap into steadiness, rootedness, as though there's a root in your body that is solid, connected to the earth. And just allowing any chaos to exit, to leave. And just coming back into groundedness.
Thank you. Radhika Marsh, it's a pleasure to welcome you to our podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. I was so excited to be a part of this and to share my voice, to share my medicine with you and your audience.
It's very welcome here. Thank you for making time. So as all of our regular listeners will be aware, we start our conversations using Esther Perel's card game, just as a bridge to connection, using stories and narratives as a way of us finding some common ground. So I have got a deck of the cards here. We don't pre-select them. I've shuffled them and I'm just going to pick off the top card. And today's card says, a big taboo in my family is ... A
big taboo in my family is talking about anything that's bad to anyone other than the family. This is not my family with my husband and my son, but the family my mum and dad and the wounds, those generational wounds within my family there. Yeah, definitely the taboo of silence and shame. Yeah, the shame of what will people think? What will people think? What will it mean about me? And so therefore suppress your voice.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's such a common, even now, it's very prevalent because we're so curated in what we put out there. I think digital media has really propelled that. So you've got that kind of intergenerational piece as you're describing around pride and what people will think. But I think that's just it's still really prevalent, that idea of having to curate and kind of gate that authentic self for fear of how that will be perceived.
This is the work that I do. It's like unshaming. Actually, the line I have on my website is unshaming your desires, unshaming your authenticity and You know, even things like social media, it doesn't need to be, you know, curated. Everything's so curated, like you said, and we get to show up in all these different versions of ourselves in a really powerful way.
Yeah, and I think that authenticity then becomes infectious. It gives other people permission to kind of step outside of what's expected and step into that kind of power, because that's exactly what you're describing is how I see people really lean into something that's bigger than what's being driven collectively.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the main premise of our conversation today is to understand how you relate to the field of trauma, mental health, and well-being. So, we met in the context of the event that we have at the University of Oxford. I'm really keen to understand, having been given only a little bit of time to look at what you sent over and research, for you in your own words to help me understand and our audience understand how you relate to that space and the work that you do.
The way that I see healing of trauma, emotional wounds is that it's multidimensional. So that involves our emotional and mental body. It involves our physical body and our spiritual body as well. And so when we involve all of those pieces, so many shifts and transformations can happen for us in how we perceive ourselves and in how we perceive our relationships and how we perceive life. And so that's how I work with people. I work with the holistic lens around healing, that it's not just a psychological thing. And you know, often when I work in the past, when I've worked with people who have struggled, say, with things like depression, it's because actually they're not allowing their soul to be activated. You know, their dreams and desires, their visions for life aren't yet activated. And so they're living, you know, there's this living of life in almost like this half-assed kind of version of what life should be like rather than how I want it to be. And so there's this deeper exploration around what is it that you're wanting.
Is that where you start then? So I'm kind of intrigued as to how do you meet your clients on those terms, and where do you start? Because that's it's so broad when you say physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, like for clients what does that journey look like?
I love working with people on a longer kind of package journey. And I always want to know what somebody's story is. So I start gathering that information before I start working with them. And I listen to their story. I listen to their narratives of reality, of what they've experienced, of their pain and suffering. And often people haven't been heard, you know, haven't felt safe either to be heard, because of that fear of judgment maybe as well. So we always start in that place, and we move to processing through the body. So working through embodiment, so how, you know, the body holds, as you know, Gabor Mate, all the key people kind of talk about how, you know, there's wisdom in trauma, the wisdom in what is held in the body. And so we work with the body as part of seeing what is there. And the body doesn't just hold trauma, the body holds resilience. The body, you know, we often think of pain in our families, in, you know, the pain our parents have inflicted on us, or our culture is. Actually, there's so much wisdom and resilience there as well. So for me, when I'm working with clients, we can go into the body, whether that's through breath, whether it's through really slow movements in the body, whether it's through sensual exploration, whether it's through going into some inner child healing and seeing what arises in the body on that journey. We can bring that in. And also things like, practices where people are actually learning safety within themselves. That's the biggest thing that the clients I work with have struggled with. It's like that seeking of safety everywhere outside of them. And I've done this myself. I did it for years, seeking safety externally. So it's like you go back to the same patterns in relationships that don't actually serve you, that actually harm you. And because you don't feel safe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about being able to hold your own discomfort, to create space for your own discomfort, create space for your own anger, for your grief, to be able to take yourself through a process of, this is coming up for me, and rather than ignoring it, I'm going to meet it. And I'm going to meet it through moving. I'm going to meet it through moving somehow, either through the breath or dance or however it wants to be expressed.
And so do you work with somatic is key from somatic processing is key from what you described. So when you're working with your clients, you're working with them physically, always in person?
It's actually all pretty much online. I run retreats as well. And there's the spiritual element of that as well. So, this piece around, so many people have felt that disconnection with spirituality, but they come to me because they have that interest in it. So there's something in them that is like, I want to develop this relationship with the unseen. And there's so much power in that. And often when we go on these journeys of, reconnecting with your soul, with your identity, with your purpose, what you're here to offer to the world, or how you're here to live, there's like this powerful permission that comes through of, I just get to be me. I don't have to be anybody else. This is who I am. This is my soul. And if I want to go and do this thing that I want to do, I get to create the rules that I want to live by and not be living by how everybody else is telling me to. And to learn to trust the piece around intuition, that something is calling you to something, to a path, or to something that holds great wisdom in it.
And so in addition to the somatic work, what else do you employ to help people? Because that's quite a state, a shift in states. Especially, I imagine the time that you spend with those clients proportionate to the time between those sessions. So what's the how do you start to break that down? What is your approach? What do you adopt? How do you get people to start to break those shackles down, peel back?
Yeah. The way that I see my containers is that they're a spiritual vessel. So it's like, I'm not just doing, this might sound out there to some people, but it's like, I'm not doing this work just on my own. I am a channel for what needs to be heard by the person that I'm supporting. And so I am here trying to serve their highest version or their favorite version. So I'm constantly tuning into what is going to create this sense of liberation for this person. And it's things like, to make it more accessible, it's things like a lot of people don't know what they want. They've got no idea what kind of a life they want to create. That people are so disempowered because of trauma that they don't see themselves as having choice. And so we activate that. It's like, for example, I might take somebody on a meditative journey where they are tapping into that subconscious part of them. They're tapping into their vision around what it is that they would like to create in their life. So it might be really loving, healthy friendships. It might be that they're living in, I don't know, the forest. It might be that they're living in like a really incredible luxury place. It doesn't matter. It's whatever is coming through for that person. It might be that they're serving people themselves on their own healing journeys, or they're holding retreats or whatever. So what I help them to do is to tap into that vision, that desire that they have, and to allow that permission for them to dream those things. So I guess essentially what I support people to do is to work with the past, present, and future versions of themselves. So they're not getting caught in like just constant processing of past trauma. It's tuning into this desired reality as well, and tuning into the safety of what is coming up in the present. So real merging of those three spaces.
And in encouraging, what sort of tools do you deploy then? Because obviously our primary audience is psychiatrists, psychotherapists, body workers, somatic practice. What are the tools that you're deploying? What is it that you're advocating for because I'm guessing what you're here to talk about is an approach that you're seeing is working in a healing context.
Yes.
So what is it that you would want to tell those therapists in terms of the approach that you adopt, and because I when you talk about spirituality, and we had a brilliant podcast last week around energy healing and the science that's emerging around energy healing and the research that's coming to bear. We know that there are these there is lots of different tools and modalities that are at our disposal as practitioners. And the question is how and when and where do we deploy those, and how do we equip ourselves to best access healing for those that we're working with. So in your, what you're describing is really compelling, because it's empowering the individuals to reflect on the past, to kind of be present and be able to be attuned to what their desires are, to tap back into that connection with what they want in order to then shape their present. Do you find there's particular tools at your disposal that work in that context?
I created a method. It's called the Freedom and Expansion Method. It's what I teach in my Academy of Healing, which is my coaching certification. So in that, I am teaching about those three elements: the psychology side that we need to know, but also this lens of, are we just teaching one dimension? Like the psychology world is very white dominated, for example. A lot of the leaders are male in this space historically. And so it's kind of creating this lens of a wider understanding that that there's different indigenous communities that have so much wisdom around healing, for example. And then the embodiment piece, it's not just somatics, it's bringing in this piece around, if I'm trying to create this desired reality, and I don't mean when I talk about this detaching from the present, right? That we're just out there dreaming about the future and we're not like here. It's not dissociation. I'm getting people to really root into when they're really connected to the earth, when they're really connected to their bodies, what is coming through in terms of what they are wanting to create in their lives. And it's this shift to, so there's something about the conversation that you're having. There's something about the freedom as practitioners that we get to break out of the conventional box as well of what we're taught psychology, psychotherapy should look like. And this has been the biggest transformation in terms of how I have learned to hold spaces for people, because I feel free essentially to take people out of the standardized box of, say, CBT or belief work. And I'm free to follow really intuitively what it is that that person is needing. So if I feel like, okay, they need to process some stuff through the body here, then I will take them and spend some time going into a journey with them. If I'm feeling like, okay, this person has no like sense of what they want in life, then I will take them on a journey of tapping into that. And that could be through talking about it. It could be giving them some kind of a prompt, journal prompts to kind of tap into that they then communicate with me around, in between sessions, that they share those ideas that are coming through with me. And then it's like, okay, how do we build up the capacity in your body to allow this vision to come through? And it's that shift of, I'm disempowered and I have no choice in reality to create what I want to create, to, oh, hold on, I can tap into something here that and I have responsibility to create it. I have the choice and responsibility to make those moves. And the way that I have noticed is most powerful to do that is if you're really getting to the place in somebody where they're actually really excited about something and you've unlocked something that actually really means something to that person that they've lost sight of, that they probably had connection to when they were a child or something.
How do you, because you're saying that to do that, it's you're going beyond you're going beyond the kind of standard framework, which I hear a lot about. I think people are now breaking the boundaries of what it is to practice. Yeah. And this is why I think our listeners are so keen to understand what different tools and modalities and approaches, whether it's something like an IFS approach or whether it's like a wearable device that somebody can wear before their session to regulate. Then, we took a breathing exercise together just before we started to ground and to center. How do you do that? Because I think a lot of practitioners are also delivering their work in a digital context. Do you find that a barrier to being able to encourage people to get back into their bodies, to tap into that innate wisdom, that intuition that you're describing, or do you find that still something you can achieve?
I work with people. This is why I actually love online work, because I get to work with people all over the world. Mm-hmm. So I have clients in Australia, the US, and I love working with people from different cultural backgrounds. And if anything, the online space I find, it's beautiful doing things in person, but in some ways it provides this, it's almost like this protective energy field for myself and also for my clients.
Yes.
There's something about the physical proximity that can feel so awkward. I don't know. For me, it can a little bit, unless I find actually in a retreat space where I've built, there's a longer space to hold the space and build the relationships and all of that. And I have in between my sessions, I offer packages. So it's, we have like a couple of sessions a month, which are really powerful. But then we have in between voice note coaching support. So whatever's come through from the session, we're checking in with each other. It's like if they're feeling like they've moved through something and there's the shift, it's like identifying, okay, where do you feel that in your body? How can we amplify that? This feeling of, I feel things opening up. I feel like I can see where things are going, or I feel really contracted today. And that there's that follow up, because a lot of traditional approaches is kind of, there isn't that in between checking, actually. And what I find with clients is that that's actually where so many sporadic shifts happen, and transformation happens around when you can support somebody in more of a moment. And there's boundaries with that, obviously, because we need to be mindful of our own capacity as space holders and who we're inviting into those spaces as well. And I supported somebody, for example, who was in a really suicidal place for quite a while, and they had my support in between sessions for a good few months. And it was at times I had to really check in with my capacity. So I think it depends on who you're calling in. And there's that piece around what I try to activate in my clients from the start is your responsibility to show up. I'm not here to mother you. I'm not here to babyfy you, to just be holding your hand like you're a child. It's like really inviting in them to take that responsibility of their own parenting of themselves. And that is activated from the start. It's like, you're going to get the most out of this space if you show up and you meet the shadows, you meet that darkness, and that you obviously at a level that feels safe enough for them, and that where I can see, this is where the trauma lens is important, that we can see if something is too much for somebody and they're becoming dissociated or deeply dysregulated or whatever. But it's that piece around stop to not be in the savior complex as healers, as psychologists, as practitioners. And yeah, a lot of people that I work with actually at the moment are psychologists and psychotherapists, and they're trying to break free from, they're trying to actually move into their own embodiment of how they want to lead spaces, because there's so much oppressiveness in the systems that psychologists, psychotherapists, doctors are in, and it can feel so like creatively squashing.
Yeah, I see this all the time. We get this from our audience: fatigue, isolation. This is common. This is why I think having community, having the ability to share and socialize tools and approaches is so important, because it's like any curriculum, when it becomes so prescriptive, it does eradicate creativity, cultural reference, being able to draw from cultural experiences or teachings, or different modalities, body-based, breath-based. There's lots that people can kind of curate, but it's almost having the permission and the community with which to kind of foster that and nurture it in a safe way. And so that's what the freedom and expansion method, I'm guessing, is.
Yes, it brings in all of those components. And I mean, I remember as a psychologist, I felt so bored sometimes, because it was just like feeling like I couldn't do things in the way that I wanted. And I didn't realize how creative a person I was until I started working in the way I wanted to work and created the spiritual psychologist. Mm-hmm. And it was like this huge portal of creativity opened up around my brand, my vision for things, how I want to hold space. And the people that come in are, you know, they want that. They want that sense of, you're not going to judge me, because you've done your own work as well around the judgments you have for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because often, like as psychologists, therapists, you know, the thing that we're not taught is your own healing. So I remember going to so many seminars and workshops on domestic violence, on trauma, but yet I could not connect to my own. It was just learning information. And it was like there was no point at any point during my doctorate, my degrees, the multitude of years that I spent learning, that I ever had the opportunity to tap into who I am and my own pain. And when I went through that journey of healing, there was so much liberation that came from that.
And I think there's a slight challenge, or at least I see using the word the spiritual. Like when people talk about spiritual or psycho-spirit, you know, it's like still perceived as woo-woo. You said that earlier in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's how do we break down those kind of perceptions so that more people can access the healing that's possible through embracing some of these other approaches that you're describing, you know, and by not taking a kind of standardized approach that
I guess the problem with this is that it's like you can't just like teach, you know, use these crystals to support well, actually I do include some of that in the Academy of Healing. It's like, are there certain medicines, plants, different things that can support you to process anger, to process grief, all of those kind of things? But it's so much deeper than that, because we have to develop our own relationship with the unseen. And if we want to do this work where we are connecting with the unseen, we have to go on our own journey of looking at what does that look like for us. So, for example, I grew up in a Hindu household, but also I had a very strongly atheist father. So I had a very mixed like understanding of what it does God exist? Like I don't know where I sit with all of this. It's so confusing. But I could see this beauty of my mum's relationship in her rituals with how she perceived the unseen. And that's going to look so different to everybody depending on your upbringing and your lineage. And so it has to start with that journey with yourself, with that exploration and redefining what spirituality looks like to you. And it's like the stronger that you get in your own embodiment of that, your own seeing of magic, or your own rootedness in that feeling of being supported by something greater, that's when you can start bringing it into your work.
yeah, it's interesting. We talk about
You can just grab off of a shelf. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this, let's take this thing like a breathwork practice and just kind of do it. If there's no like, it's the same with the breath work. It's like you can do a breath work practice, or you can really make it feel like a connected experience for that person.
So it's interesting the point that you make about religion, because I think if we rewind 50 or 100 years, religion provided that kind of North Star. We've talked about this from a lot of different perspectives, but it gave people a framework, a purpose, intentionality behind their actions, thinking about how they interact with themselves as well as others. And there's that demise of that kind of religious construct. And, you know, obviously there's lots of challenges with religion as well, but in that respect, it provided frameworks, guidance, guardrails for individuals on how to show up meaningfully. And there's still a level of self-expression within that. And I think, what I hear you describing is people finding their own North Star and
Yeah.
understanding enough about themselves to be able to provide that structure, that framework, those guardrails, those expectations of themselves first. Is that fair?
Mm. Yes. Yeah. And to explore that piece around faith, faith that you're supported through life, which, and like that's such a huge part of my own practices, for example. It's like whatever's happening, I I intentionally come back to peace in my body. I intentionally come back to gratitude in this moment right now, even if I don't have all the things I want, and I come back to my practices in the morning. So it's like I have rituals that I have somehow built a relationship with, and it anchors me in to the day. It anchors me into um my purpose, how I'm here to serve. It anchors me into um the light, and it also allows me to meet the parts of myself that are feeling vulnerable. And it's I think it's almost like this tool of um it's not just safety, because I believe that, like, if you're, say, asking for something, right, you want to manifest this thing. If we were going to talk about it in like a new age kind of spiritual way, if you want to manifest this thing, then the way that I see it is, in order to have that thing, there's going to be natural challenges along the way. It's like we've got to embrace the challenges and the celebrations. We can't just expect for everything to be rosy. And this is part of the issue with how people perceive, this concept of I'm healed, everything will be fine. Or actually what it is that you're learning to create a relationship with suffering. You're learning to create a better relationship with the wide range of human spectrum emotions that you're going to navigate through life, especially if you're on a path of claiming, your own growth, and kind of being in conviction of this is what I want to create in my life. That's going to come with the darkness and the light. Yeah.
And again, we are so often encouraged to reject pain and discomfort, to reject,
Yeah.
try and look to avoid. But, when we talk about post-traumatic growth, then the opportunity comes, doesn't it, when we can sit, understand how to tolerate and navigate and, learn from those experiences. But again, it's in a world that's kind of, that curation piece and managing expectations. There's a dance, there's a bit of navigating that needs to be done there around getting people to embrace that reality, because it's an unavoidable reality of a healing journey.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still not.
And people, the way that I see it is, so say, for example, I'll try and give an example. I there were certain things that it's like I just kept being shown these same patterns in my life again and again. It was like people who were gaslighting me, or people who were like me going into experiences which left me feeling really unsafe, for example, as a person of color in the spiritual space, in the spiritual realm, of like things I was learning about. And it was like I kept coming across these different experiences. And it's like, to me, I know from a spiritual lens that those experiences are being brought to me for me to learn something from them. And at the time, it felt deeply painful. It felt like, why is this person come into my life? Or why did I choose to go into this experience which has hurt me so badly? But I could also see the lens of, this is guiding and taking me somewhere. I don't know where that is yet, but it's guiding and taking me somewhere. And that's the faith piece. It's like, when things are happening and they're not going your way, it's seeing that there's something from that you are also going to deeply learn from. And the thing that people struggle with is this idea of, how can you experience such devastating things and learn from it? Do you see what I'm saying? So we're not saying here that, somebody's experienced something like a sexual trauma and that we just go up to that person and say, well, there's lessons in this, right? We're not, that's not what we're saying here, but there is something about a wisdom that is carried from the experiences that we have. So when we're looking at things from a spiritual perspective, from a spiritual lens, you can see that all of those things are happening and it's guiding you somewhere greater. So those experiences, for example, that I had where I felt unsafe, I felt gaslit in unsafe spaces, and containers that I was a part of, it's shown me how to hold spaces for people from different communities. It's showed me, it's given me that question of, am I creating safe space here for people from different cultural communities? Can they relate to my work? Am I even as a person of color, am I creating that safe space? Am I creating safe spaces or safer spaces for LGBTQIA plus communities? So it's really brought me into doing a lot of work around decolonization, around different things like that, which has then shaped this container of the Academy of Healing that I've created. It's shaped the brand that I've created in my business. If I hadn't had those experiences, I would not be holding the spaces that I am creating today.
Yeah, resonates very well. You talk about faith, and I hear comfort. Do you know what I mean? There's faith that there is comfort on the way, and when you're talking about that safety, I just hear about compassion. Just if we could get to a place of greater compassion for ourselves and for one another, then healing is so much more possible, and possible with greater ease. So everything you said makes complete sense. Yeah, really, it's a really nice segue as well for me to ask the question that we ask all of our guests at the end of the podcast, and it's a big gnarly question, but we're going to go for it and see where we land. And it's obviously we live in a world with lots of fear and anxiety and doubt. At macro level, there's lots of reasons to be uncomfortable. If there was one lever for change that you could pull, one button you could push, that would be the catalyst for the change that we need to see in the world, what would that be?
The thing coming through is surrounding yourself with people who are not going to feed the parts of yourself that are keeping you stuck, or the parts of yourself that are staying small in life. You're staying in that place where it's just like, oh, this will do. Like, surround yourself with people who see you, that see your gifts, that are here for your They want to see you like thrive in life rather than, I guess, like surrounding yourself by people um who are in their own wounds and are operating from their own wounds, and you can just feed off of each other in that space forevermore. And we've got to be brave to create change.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that nervous system regulation, which is how I can explain that the company that you hold and how regulated their nervous systems are. I mean,
Yes.
that in fact, the possibility of an epidemic of, constructive nervous system states would be a wonderful place. And I think that's what I can hear in what you're saying, is just that ability to surround yourself with people who are on that higher vibration, who can
Yes, definitely.
beautiful. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Welcome. I've loved it.